Okay, we need to have a conversation about voice actors. One of the things that I think a lot of people really are getting into video games more and more, and the reason that the market has grown so much is because it's become much more cinematic. It is, in essence, despite the fact people call them games, and they are games, they're meant to be fun, they're also methods of storytelling. I've argued before, video games are storytelling at their most personal, where the player is the one telling the story by their actions, their responsibilities. And with the infection of role-playing mechanics into almost every other game genre, storytelling has just come to the fore. There are brilliant AAA mass market examples out there of brilliant stories being told with brilliant protagonists. And if you look at the best, most recognisable, most interesting video game protagonists from the last 15 years, Bayonetta and the Sega published series is one of the best. Developed by Platinum Games, which is a Japanese studio, this character really stood out and got a really niche, not quite as big as they wanted, but very passionate following. And she was voiced extremely well in that first game. It was an extremely interesting character, an extremely interesting performance. And they brought her back to play the same character in the second game. There's been an 8-year delay between that second game coming out and the third, which is due to be released very, very shortly on the Nintendo Switch. Published by Nintendo, still developed by Platinum Games. And here's where I think the really interesting disconnect comes in. Because Platinum is a Japanese developer. The main voice actress of Bayonetta is of course a Japanese voice actress. That is what the developer, that is what the publisher's core focus on. Despite the fact that more people will have brought the international version with the British voice actress around the world, and she is globally famous, she would not have been the primary original voice actress of either version of Bayonetta when it was originally recorded. Now, we do know for a fact that Hideki Kamiya, the developer and producer of these games, is aware of this voice actress. He has met the English equivalents, but there was a round of disappointment a couple of weeks ago when it was announced that she would not be returning to voice the same character in Bayonetta 3, and a new voice actress will be brought in to fill the part. We now know that the press release put out by Platinum Games about Helene Taylor, saying that she was too busy and that's why they've got a new voice actress, is not true. The truth is that Helene Taylor re-auditioned for the role. That's a common practice for people who want to resume portraying a video game character to prove their voice hasn't changed. And she turned down the role after she was offered $4,000 to do the whole game as a flat rate. Now, to someone who doesn't think about this very much, $4,000 sounds like a lot of money. It's probably about a week's worth of work, maybe longer. It's very difficult to tell how much work actually goes into playing the main character in a large, big budget video game. Because there's all of the spoken dialogue in the cutscenes, but then there's multiple takes. There's how much voice acting is in the game. Some games have a lot, some games don't. There's all the incidental sounds. So how much work is it? £4,000? Maybe for the hours in the studio that she would have spent, that's a reasonable rate. But this is a very recognisable character whose voice is heavily used in all of the marketing and the merchandising and all of the franchise revenue that comes in after the video games come out. Bayonetta is a very, very well recognised character, and the work that Helene Taylor had done in the first two games to develop that voice, to make the voice fit the design of the character that the video game designers and coders have produced, that the artists produced, it's a really interesting and knotty subject. Because how much of a video game character comes down to the voice actor? Surely the art design, the production, the direction, all of the digital stuff, all of the synthetic stuff that has nothing to do with the voice actor, that's just as important. It's more important than a TV or a movie which has a real, you're actually seeing someone's face. This isn't Helene's character in the whole, but the voice is entirely hers. And when you consider that that game would be sold in perpetuity for years on the market, people will be purchasing Bayonetta 3 5, maybe 10 years from now. It will go on sale, it will be re-released, and there's no compensation, no further fees for her voice being reused in these contexts. £4,000, a flat rate, is suddenly an insultingly low amount of money. And we now know that Platinum Games or Nintendo, whoever did it, lied in their press release. They lied in stating that she couldn't do it because of her commitments. And she's gone on record and released this petition on Twitter urging fans to boycott the game, to send a message to Nintendo or Platinum Games and say this is unacceptable. And I'm not going to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do. It's your choice whether you want to buy the game. If you've been waiting for Bayonetta 3 for 8 years and it's your most anticipated game of 2022 and you want to buy it, it's your money, you do what you want. But it's a really interesting and knotty concept. When video games are developed for another language and they're ported over to English for American, British, Western, whatever audience, the company doing that quite often is not the same team that are making the game in the first place. Some international departments are very involved and they do the voices simultaneously, and the English voices and other voices are fed back into the people developing the core game. But quite often that's not the case. Quite often the game is produced in one language and then ported after the fact to the other languages. And I suspect, knowing the way Nintendo do things, that's what would have happened for Bayonetta 3. Hideki Kamiya knew enough about this that he personally responded to friends of this actress reaching out to him and said he valued her voice, but not enough for negotiations to occur, not enough to try and tempt her back. What we have here is a problem of budget, not of the studio producing Bayonetta 3, but from a smaller subsidiary studio localizing Bayonetta 3. And the rates that Helene Taylor were being offered for the localization are lower than the rates, that you would expect for a pure voice actor piece of work. But when that voice is to be used in such a prominent capacity in the marketing, in all of the future revenue streams of that video game, when it's such a core, vital component of the brand, this isn't right. This isn't ethical. Helene has called for fans to boycott the game. I was on the fence. I mean, I like the Bayonetta franchise. I'm not going to buy it new. I might buy it secondhand further down the line. That's my own personal take on this, I'm afraid. If you're looking forward to a friend remembered's take on Bayonetta 3, you won't see it in 2022. This announcement is part of the reason for that, because I've morally tried to judge about what I think of this, and the numbers on this and the compensation, the revenue for the actors and actresses who put their parts to a component of these video games that I absolutely enjoy and I consider to be an integral part of my enjoyment of them. No offence to the new voice actress, but I'm assuming she's not earning any more than that, unless something very screwy is going on. The Bayonetta franchise has made an approximate $450 million just from the video game sales. That's ignoring all the merchandise and everything that comes after the fact. It's a popular franchise, it's a money maker. Now, this doesn't diminish the work of the coders and the digital artists who produce the look and feel of the character, but the voice is important. And I think this is an ongoing problem when we are treating storytelling as a localization issue. I'm very, very impressed when I've seen in other franchises the localization is a core part of the development, and I'd like to see that more and more going forwards. But it's a dark side of the joy of video gaming that I think it's worth being aware of. But if what's important for you is the action and the gameplay, this probably won't affect you very much. And that is, of course, one of the other sides of it. There's also a large fan base out there who consider at its core gaming is about the play, the feel, the fun you get from the moment to moment. How important is one voice actor to that? Ultimately, not very. I just thought I'd delay this week's video and bring this to your attention in case you're interested. I think it's a difficult topic, but I think it's one worth discussing. And my thoughts go to Helene Taylor and her fans, because it would have been delightful to have her back. And there was a bit of an outcry and saying it's a shame when it was announced she wouldn't be returning to voice the character. She is a much loved part of that character's development, and I wish her all the best. But I would just say, £4,000 is a flat rate with no reimbursement when that, depending on sales or future sales or revenue, that is pathetic. I'll leave you with a copy of Helene Taylor's own statement that she posted to Twitter on the 15th of October 2022, and let her say it in her own words, and you can be the judge for yourself on what you want to do going forwards. If Bayonetta 3 comes out and you love it, all credit to you, I hope you have a great time. But if you love the character, if you love what Bayonetta was, and despair a little bit for what could have been, you might find this very interesting.
Hello, my name's Helene Taylor, and I am the voice of Bayonetta, and I would like to explain to you why I didn't voice Bayonetta 3. The Bayonetta franchise made an approximated $450 million. That's not including merchandise. As an actor, I trained for a total of 7.5 years. 3 years at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, LAMDA, with voice coach Barbara Barkery, and 4.5 years with the legendary Larry Moss in Los Angeles. And what did they think this was worth? What did they offer to pay me? The final offer to do the whole game as a buyout, a flat rate, was $4,000 US. This is an insult to me, the amount of time that I took to work on my talent and everything that I have given to this game and to the fans. I am asking the fans to boycott this game and instead spend the money that you would have spent on this game donating it to charity. I didn't want the world. I didn't ask for too much. I was just asking for a decent, dignified living wage. What they did was legal, but it was immoral. Now, those of you who follow me on Twitter know that I'm more of a lover than a fighter, and sometimes think I'm not very much like Bayonetta at all, but I guess I am a little bit more like Bayonetta than I thought. I understand that boycotting this game is a personal choice, and there are those that won't, and that's fine. But if you're someone who cares about people, who cares about the world around you, who cares about who gets hurt with these financial decisions, then I urge you to boycott this game. I decided to do it to stand up in solidarity with people all over the world who do not get paid properly for their talents. Fat cats cream off the top and leave us the rotten crumbs. You know, in England right now, there are nurses going to food banks to feed their children. This is not right. This is not acceptable. It impacts mental health. Because of it, I suffered from depression and anxiety. I worried that I was going to be on the streets. That terrified me so much that once I was suicidal. I am not afraid of the non-disclosure agreement. I can't even afford to run a car. What are they going to do? Take my clothes? Good luck to them. Bayonetta always stands up for those with less power and stands up for what is right. And in doing this, you stand with her. Thank you. So, to Kamiya, the presidents of Nintendo, and all other fat cats around the world, I would like to quote to you from the greatest moral teacher who ever lived, Jesus Christ, from his parable of Lazarus and the rich man. Lazarus was a poor beggar with sores all over his body, and he lived outside the house of a rich man who banqueted and feasted every day and wore purple. Lazarus even hoped for even a scrap off the rich man's table, which he never gave Lazarus. Only the dogs pitied him and licked his sores. Lazarus died, and the angels took him straight up to heaven, to the bosom of Abraham. Meanwhile, the rich man went to hell and suffered torment, and in his torment he cried out to Abraham, "Abraham, please save me, take me up to heaven." To which Abraham said, "You had your joy in life. Now this is set for eternity." So he said, "Please tell my brothers who are living like I was, send them a messenger so they can repent." To which Abraham said, "We've sent you Moses and the prophets." "Ah, but if you send Lazarus, if a man comes back from the dead, they will listen to him." To which Abraham replied, If you did not listen to Moses and the prophets, it's unlikely that you'll listen to a man who is risen from the dead. I would like to thank you, the fans who have followed me on Twitter, commented kindly and liked my work. Bless you. I wish you all the joy and luck in the world.